Welcome to AiTalks, a place to come and listen to IBM customers, partners and colleagues talk about the digital organisation and how AI, hybrid cloud and enterprise software is critical to success. Let me hand over to my colleagues to get us started.
So we're here today to record another of our AI Talks podcast series. And today's topic is Omnichannel and order management. And our guests today are Leo and Ant from Accenture, one of our really key partners, and also Tim, who's from our IBM Sterling business. To get us started, could you tell us a bit about yourselves and your roles in Accenture? Ant, let's go to you first.
Yeah, so hi Kylie, I'm Anthony Farrow. I am the CTO of the Javelin Group. I've been with Javelin Group for over 20 years, specialising in digital and order management delivery. We became part of the Accenture family about 5 years ago, and I now lead retail technology in the UK for Accenture as well. I'm also joined here by my colleague Leo.
Yeah, hi Ant. I'm Leo Muid. I'm part of our Accenture strategy and consulting organisation. I lead our order management capability for Accenture in the UK.
So just to frame for the listener, Leo, when you think about your retail clients, what's uppermost on their mind in the context of Omnichannel?
I mean, I think at the moment, most of them, it's when are they going to get their other channels back? They've gone from being omni-channel down to digital retailers, most of them. Aligned to that is what is going to be different. Well, as we assume things are going to be different when stores do come back. Will it be a return to how we always used to shop and interact in stores, or how long are the restrictions and changes that we see at the moment in terms of ability to easily browse and access shops going to be going on? The fact that people have got so used to shopping online over the last year and a bit, I think there's a significant chance that a lot of that will continue for the foreseeable future. What that's going to do to high streets, what that's going to do to retail business models, I think is a significant challenge for many of our clients.
Thanks, Leo. And following on from what Leo said, what would you've changed before the pandemic to enable the customer journey that your clients are striving for?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question, right? And I guess sort of linking back to what Leo said there, a lot of our customers at the moment are in varying degrees of different situations. So some of our customers are suddenly suffering from an explosion of demand, and they need to be able to get all of their stock and their goods to their customers in the best way possible, in the safest way possible. Some people in a situation where they are, as Leo said, unable to sell at all, and therefore will have a glut of stock that they're going to need to shift through a whole new set of business models, outlets, back into the stores. I think if you look at all of that, and hindsight's an amazing thing, right? Hindsight's a brilliant thing. If you look at all of that, what would have been fantastic to enable our customer journey is to have a view of what product I've got where, how much I've got of that stock, where I can put it, how I can then move that between our channels and in my various fulfillment centres, be able to get that to my customers in the most optimal way forward. It's been said many times before, I won't talk about it again, but obviously the last 12, 18 months have been some of the most disruptive in retail that we've ever seen in terms of that process, and people wishing that they moved a bit faster in terms of being able to have flexible systems and architecture to support that.
And I think it's not just about retail anymore. I mean, I think one of the things that we've seen is that consumer goods firms have seen the fact that retail channel has dried up or significantly shifted, and so they're now questioning why perhaps they need that retail channel more and more, and why can't they go direct to consumer, jump on the bandwagon of being digitally led and cut out the middleman to some extent on the sort of retail channel. So I think the equation is changing in terms of how retailers and consumer goods firms choose to interact with their customers.
Leo, when you said about they're just digital, they're not omni-channel anymore, everyone's concerned about omni-channel, what is the view, what do we think maybe about when do people feel comfortable going into crowded places again, like shopping centres? Or is the in-store experience still going to be valued over and above a digital experience as it has been in the past, or will that transition?
I mean, I guess my perspective on that is that 100% we believe that tactile shopping will be a thing. The place on the high street is still going to be fundamental in terms of what we continue to do as shoppers, right, Tim? But, and that's just part of our human interaction experience, to touch and feel things. It will be backed by a much more solid digital engagement before, after, and during the store process. A lot of people have made huge bounds with that even before COVID, but we'll just see the acceleration of that. One thing I would take away from this whole last 12 months is just the speed some people have moved at. You look at organisations, you talk about agility and speed and disruption. There's nothing like having, your business, your critical line of business in your hands to make you move. And I've seen people implement stuff in weeks that historically I would have said, and they would have agreed with me, would be 9 to 10 month projects. And it's been done. We've worked with people to deliver things in a matter of days rather than months. It's just incredible, really. And I think also there'll be a question around that going forward, right, Tim, in terms of how do we keep going that fast? How do we keep that agility and that mindset in the future? Because we really have reacted incredibly well to a lot of the challenges we've seen in the crisis.
Is that a lot to do with the fact that businesses have had to stop procrastinating and have, hundreds of people involved in decision processes, and people have got to put their hand up and go, we're going to do this and be brave? Is that the big change, or is it that technically we found something radically overnight that changes it?
No, I think it's more the culture shift for sure. I think architecturally, nothing hugely has changed. I think it is the culture shift in terms of what they're doing, and everybody heaving in one direction to make something happen, to make, curbside click and collect a reality overnight. Yeah, I would agree. It's more a cultural thing than necessarily a technology thing. But it's going to be how do you keep doing that, and actually how does the technology continue to support that type of agile decision making in the future?
Best Buy, an IBM customer, so it's public knowledge, they had never used curbside as the Americans click and collect. It's an American business. They use Sterling and IBM products. Overnight, they enabled this, and it protected something like 60% of their revenues. But the thing was, they hadn't thought it was important. And then the decision was made overnight, and it was done in weeks. It was 6-8 weeks done. The revenue generator was huge and protected them through the COVID thing. You think of business of that size, and they are enormous in the US, had not even considered it a business value before COVID. The change was dramatic, both from a business point of view and also from a business decision making point of view, and also then the impact to their engaging their customers, which is the most important thing, right? Don't lose your customers. Before I ask the next question, and tonight, Leo, Kylie, we've worked on successful projects with a number of retailers across the world. But I can honestly tell you, audience, that I was actually not looking forward to this podcast because Farrow's is a Welsh rugby supporter. In my view, they cheated. And I know that no matter what happens, he will be true to the Welsh team and just give me a load of stick. So I'm waiting for it. It hasn't happened yet. But I can't tell you, I just genuinely feel we were robbed.
Like the true gentleman I am, despite my dulcet tones, as you say, Tim, I am a Welshman. On my head in my heart says we'll take the win, and we won by more points than would have been lost if we had those 2 tries disallowed. My head says that even Nigel Owens called them is particularly borderline.
So let's go to the question. And in this uncertain world, and it's uncertain and complex, because the digital influence in the store, the uncertainty, not just because of COVID, because now people don't know whether to bet more on digital or more on store. They don't know whether or how consumers are now going to change their behaviour. Do I need less is more? Do I need a supply chain order management system? Do I need to change my back end enterprise ERP systems? Can my website not do more for me? What do you think people are thinking about right now?
I think if I go back to the previous question of what would we do differently with that hindsight of what happened in the future, I think having all of your logic, your eggs, everything in one basket with one supplier just makes things very difficult sometimes to move forwards. Not all the times, and there's reasons to be strategic with your partners and your technology choices, but more and more I see the people who are succeeding are people who plug together the best of the technologies that are out there, pull together what makes sense for you. You leverage that cloud-based agility, pulling in all those different solutions to give you the answer you need. I would argue, in this complex world, what we need is more of that cloud-based, cloud-native solutions plugged together and less of the monolithic sort of old school ERPs that I think you're alluding to in this question.
Probably a tough one to answer, but do you think retailers, because we specialise in retail, and I agree with Leo, by the way, I think it's affecting other industries thinking differently. Takeaways for restaurants and beer and all kinds of things have changed, but just from a retailing point of view, What do you think the appetite is to invest in this, in the re-architecting or looking at their landscape?
I mean, I'll let Leo come in on this one as well, but I mean, my point of view is that, you know, this is now pretty fundamental to what you've got to do as a business, right? And you have to have ownership of what your digital proposition looks like. You have to have ownership of how you're going to manage your inventory globally across your business. I'm not sure I can comment on the appetite around spending. It varies depending on how you're doing in the current crisis. But yeah, I personally think it's really, really important. I don't know, Leo, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think we've seen over the past 5-10 years or so, I mean, most retailers these days say they're omni-channel. They operate a website and they operate digital fulfillment. They've often crafted it from a hybrid of whatever their ERP can do, whatever their website can do, and it works, and they get orders to customers. But as this becomes a more significant part of their business, and click and collect becomes even more important because people don't want to spend time in stores, perhaps they just want to walk in and collect something and go, then I think doing that in a cost-effective and flexible manner is going to become absolutely top of mind for them. And so they're going to increasingly hit the kind of blockers that the ERP and a web-based order fulfillment capability are just not going to be able to solve for them. And so I think taking a step back and, as Ant says, looking at what best of breed cloud-based agile capabilities in the space can give them, I think they will see significant opportunities.
Leo, following on from Ant's earlier comments regarding the best platforms available, what's your view of the role of AI and future technology that will innovate the supply chain?
I think at the moment we are just scratching the surface of when it comes to sort of future innovations in supply chain and in retail in general. The platforms are going to be at the forefront of developing that AI, because fundamentally the knowledge it takes and the effort it takes to get some of those more advanced capabilities are not going to be the kind of things that retailers or consumer goods firms on their own are going to be able to compete with. Platform with a solid roadmap with AI and big data baked in, I think is going to be absolutely essential, because that's the way that people are going to be able to leverage whatever is coming down the track. I think in order to be able to do that, the thing that AI fundamentally relies on is data, and good quality data. So garbage in, garbage out is never more true than with AI. If we start putting in data that doesn't reflect what we want to get out of it, doesn't reflect reality, then it's not going to be useful insight that's generated. Having a platform that understands the data, is able to collect the useful information around order, around supply, and then is able to interpret that and use the platform capabilities to derive insight from it, and potentially insights that are gathered by looking at supply chain data from across many different retailers and contexts. I think that's where the real value is going to come from.
Leo, question for you, my friend. It's speed to market, time to value, impact to decision making. What do you think is going to be different going forward after this COVID digital change?
The changes that we've seen from COVID have kind of written the business case for investment, in terms of if the shift to digital that we've seen persists after shops start to reopen, then I think it's going to be a no-brainer that businesses have to relook at their order management capabilities. Of course, speed to market and how that investment can quickly realise value is always going to be a consideration in prioritising those investments. With the significant shift to SaaS-based capabilities, that speed to value is a significantly different proposition than it used to be. I don't think order management these days is necessarily a 9 to 12 month implementation and then a slow rollout after that. I think you can get to the point of seeing value realised through that investment and through the capabilities much more quickly than that.
Inventory visibility as a phase one, giving you omni-channel view of a single view of stock. That's now doable in 8 to 12 weeks. So
absolutely.
Business justification. So what I've seen here, and customers that I work with get really intense about the business case pre the decision, and then through the decision and after the decision. I don't see the tracking to really know the value at a granular detail level, and then help use that to drive forward as things like supply chain then need to evolve again, and you need to invest and change again. Why is that?
It's a great question, Tim. it always goes a little bit back to the point that Leo made there, right? So I think people have a perception around some of the tools in this space as that they are big sort of 15-month, 18-month programs of work, kind of leave them to it, and they kind of tick there, flopping around, doing stuff with orders in the middle of your system. And that's just not true anymore, right? I mean, and that's not how you're going to get the value out of those systems anyway. You were referencing before about the 12 weeks to get to inventory visibility. A little bit of me says the business case for these things usually stacks up massively, and it's just about how quickly you can get that return on investment. So I think it's because people need to stop thinking about this in perhaps a more traditional back office implementation point of view and start thinking of it more like a digital investment, where this is an ongoing, recurring set of a team that are going to be working on this to continually refine the solution as you're going, rather than some kind of big, long business process that you drop in at the end. I don't know. Do you agree with that, Tim? I mean, you've got as much experience with that as I have. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like some time ago, when I was first doing this, there weren't e-commerce directors. And now there's a digital director, as well as an e-commerce director, as well as a SVP for supply chain or director. My view is that they have to come together more and not be siloed in their business pillars and their business vision, because they're now so intertwined. They are the omni-channel. Maybe the way the businesses are set up, they need to think about that merging of those, not the function. I agree they're different thought processes. The business objective is shared by all of those. It's more making them much more have the same direction of travel for vision would be the thing I sometimes see lacking.
That's a really interesting point, right? I mean, there's a different podcast on omni-channel organisational structures, right? And the omni-channel director, I mean, that's a whole different potential kettle of fish. But there's a point there that a lot of these projects are essentially owned by supply chain. And actually, they're one of the few projects that or they're owned by IT, but these are one of the few projects where everybody's got to be brought together, right, Tim? I mean, that's the whole point. That is why sometimes they don't get the investment, is because it doesn't sit into a nice bucket of ownership, and everybody needs to be involved in making sure you get the most out of it, from your stores, your warehouse team, to your digital team, your technology team. Everybody's got to have a say, and maybe that's another reason why sometimes people don't quite get what they expect from it.
Guys, this conversation's been really fascinating, but unfortunately we've run out of time now. I just want to say a huge thank you to Leo and Ant from Accenture, and also to Tim from our Sterling team. You've been listening to AI Talks, and I hope you've really enjoyed it. Have a great day.